Welcome student to consumer and producer surplus topic, which is a topic you have already seen in your economics class. What we will do here is we will revisit the same topic, same concept, but we will use the integration. Now we know how to find the integration, so we will use the integration in order to find something we call it consumer surplus and producer surplus. Before we start with the formula how to find the consumer and producer surpluses, we need just to revisit some concept we have seen before in economics, which is two concept of supply curve, the price of supply and the price for the demand. And remember that those two curves, they have a law called supply demand law. So we have supply law and demand law. Let me remind you of what is the demand law means. Demand law means it is of the point of view of the consumer, which is the person who is buying the product. So what is the people who will buy any product are looking for? They look if the price goes down for the product, what will happen? If you see any product which the price getting down, which means it is getting discounted, you will see that more people are willing to buy this product. So the quantity that will be bought will be more and more. In the opposite way, if there are more quantity in the market of the item, that means the prices will get less and less. So if we have shortage of any product, the price goes up. This is, we call it the demand law. And that's from the consumer point of view. On the other hand, we have something we call it supply law, which means this will be from the producer point of view, and the producer, remember, he is the one who's selling the items. For him, for any seller, as long as the price goes up, they will be willing to sell more and more. The reason why? It's an obvious reason. The reason because they will get more profits. So if the price goes up, they are willing to supply the market with more product. Contrary, if the price goes little bit down, which this price going down, they are willing to sell only few items because they want to maximize their profit. Now, we have the supply law from the producer, we have the demand law from the consumers. There is one point where they meet, and this point we call it the equilibrium point. And let me give you some example of what is actually the equilibrium point means, and then we will have more discussion about this point, and this will be a very important point for us. Now, imagine we are doing a bargaining. So imagine we are doing bargaining, or it's type of negotiation. Imagine you want to buy, for example, let's say you want to buy something, okay? The first thing, you go to the shop, you are expecting to buy it by $10. However, the shop insists they want to sell it by 90. Of course, you will not agree, you would say no, and the seller will say also no. So you will start negotiating. How you will negotiating? The seller might say, okay, you don't want it by 90, I will sell it by just 80. You continue saying, no, I don't want it by 80. I want it to be, for example, I'm willing to pay only 40. Now it's turn for the seller. He will say, no, 40 doesn't work for me. I can give you a little bit discount. I will make it 65. You say, no, 65 again, it's too much for me. I want you to sell me this product by 55. That's the money I will pay. Well, the seller say, look, we don't want to continue anymore. I'll give you the best price I can give you, which is the price of 60. You say, oh, the price of 60 and I'm willing to pay 55. Okay, let me just take it by 60, and you get it by 60. This, what happened here is we get the equilibrium. Of course, this is just a minor example of the equilibrium price. Imagine we have only one quantity. This is the price where we both, as producer, as a seller, are happy to, and as a buyer or consumer are happy with, which is 60. Now, unfortunately, this number is very hard to predict, very hard to know exactly how much it will be. So the idea of surpluses will play the role of this missing equilibrium point. So let me give you another example of something that you already might find interesting here. Now let's do the opposite thing with the same concept. Imagine you go to a supermarket with 300, or let's say just 300, let's say just $3. I go to a supermarket with $3 that I want to spend to buy a chocolate bar. Now, imagine in the supermarket, I saw that the chocolate bar, it is only $2.50. What will happen? Of course, sorry, this one, let me do it in purple. Of course, what will happen? You will become so happy. You will smile, and you will think that you are winning. Why you are winning? Because you have expecting to pay $3, and now you only buy something worth 2.5, so you have $0.50 extra with you. So you are happy. However, the supermarket, they know that, which is of course, this is the consumer. The supermarket, which is the seller, or sometimes we call it the producer, they already having this chocolate bar costing them 1.8. So when they sell it by 2.5, again, they are happy because they have an extra 0.7 cents. So they have something extra. So they are happy, and this is what we call it surplus. Surplus is the amount of more we have than what we should expect. So this one is happy, this one is happy, and we can start the economics, and this is where we can start buying and selling. So we agree upon a price, each one has its own expectation, and then everyone will get profit. And that's what we have here. So if I just repeat this example, in a supermarket, you find a candy bar for 250. I'm using the unit of fels, which is the same as in our example, $2.50, which is a good news for you because you were prepared to pay 300 fels for them. So you are willing to pay more when you come to the supermarket. You find them less than what you are expecting. Now the supermarket manager again is happy. Why? Because he know that it cost them only 180 fels a bar. And he said to himself, lucky me, I'm paying 200 fels for 300. And the supermarket manager say, oh, I'm lucky because I'm selling 180 fels bar for 250. So each party, they feel they are coming ahead of the transaction, and this is what we call it the term surplus. So it's describe how much each party gains from the transaction. In this case, both of them are happy, both of them are gaining because of that. And in order to focus on our subject for today, which is the surplus, we need to focus on the equilibrium point. Remember the equilibrium point where the demand curve intersect with the supply curve. So the demand should equal the supply. Now, let's go back to the demand equal to the supply. As I just mentioned, demand equal to the supply. But what does it mean? This means it is the stability in the producer-consumer relationship occurs. Remember the example I give for negotiation? This is the price where both parties will have purchased the same quantity that the producer wished to sell. Sometimes we call it the fair price, or this is the best price can be offered. So we have fair price, and then we have best price. This is what we call it equilibrium point. Now, let's go back to mathematics. How do we find the equilibrium point? Of course, you will have an example like this one. And the question is, we need to graph the demand and supply, and we find the equilibrium point. Remember how we graph this function? This will be just a line. And this one also a line. So let me first step, just go ahead and graph them. So something like this. Of course, the supply will start with 500, just this point. And then after, for example, after a while, it will be just it will be here somewhere. And this is the, okay, this is the supply. Now for the demand, it will start with 2000 and it will just go down to something much less here. Which is, I don't know, it would be here. Something like this. This is what we should expect to get. Of course, we have to get a better one than this one. And now, how do we find the equilibrium point? Remember, where is the equilibrium point? Is this point. We need to find it. So what we need to do is we need to find the demand, which is P, equal to the supply. Which again, another P, but this is different than the previous one. Now the first one, if you remember, it was 50Q plus 2000. For the other P, it was 10Q plus 500. This is just a simple linear equation that we need to solve. How we are going to solve it? Take this negative 50 to the other side. It will become 60Q. Take this 500 to the other side. It will go with the negative, so it will be 1500. Divide everything by 60 and use your calculator. What you will get here is 25 units, and that would be Q naught. And then you need to find the price, which is P naught. So you just take 25, substitute it somewhere, either in the supply or in the demand. Remember, they will give you the same number. You can even try it. It will be $700, $750. So if we go back to our curve here, let me just take it back. If I just go back, this will be here. I'll get 750 for 25 units. Now, what I want you to focus with me here a little bit, what happened when we have 10 units? How much is the price for 10 units and how much is the demand for 10 units? That's what we will do next. And if we just do the calculation, negative 50 times 10 plus 2000, it will be 1500. And we, for the supply, it would be 10 times 10 plus 500, it would be 600. So what happened here is the consumer are fine to pay 1,500. He's starting with 1,500, and then the best price he could get is 750, which means he's willing to pay more and then he get it less. He feel happy. Similarly, the seller is willing to sell by 600. This is the price they want to sell. However, they get a better deal and they are selling by 750. And that's what we call it the surplus, or how much money they will get out of the relation. Finally, how we find the consumer surplus? It will be the demand, the function in red, minus the B0, the price of the equilibrium, and we do the integral. For the producer surplus, it will be B0 minus the supply. Now, how do I remember this or this? This is an equation that we need to remember. You remember it from this shape here. Remember, if we are talking about the consumer, you are asking yourself how much the area here. And in order to find the area, we do top minus bottom. What is the bottom? B0. What is the top? Is the demand. Similarly, for the producer surplus, you do top minus bottom. The top one is B0. The bottom one is the supply. And that's what we will do next. We will apply this formula to find the consumer surplus and this formula to find producer surplus.